Hello everyone, welcome back to the one more session of Management Information System. We were discussing about the topic called Technology of Information System. Let us continue with the same thing with respect to the technology. In the previous session, we had discussed about the evaluation and the feasibility of IT solution, in which we have gone through the three main aspects, that is the technical aspects, that is technical feasibility. Next is on operational feasibility, and we had also discussed about the financial feasibility. Let us continue our discussion with the topic. That is, today we'll discuss with the information technology implementation plan. We call it as IT implementation plan. In the previous session, we had discussed about all the feasibilities. Let us continue with the discussion of the implementation plan. When we talk about the implementation plan, the implementation concept itself is a complex task and needs a detailed and a careful planning for successful implementation. Means the implementation concept is not an easy task, and it cannot be implemented as and when we discussed about the previous session. So it is a complex task. We need to have a lot of homework to be done in order to do this task. So it is necessary to have a preparation. Means we need to pre-prepare. We see the word pre-prepare says in advance a preparation has to be done before the implementation. So implementation covers some of the important features. We'll see what are those. The important features that covers here are the first one. The first one goes there like this: the site preparation. The first concept with respect to the features of the implementation is site preparation. Second one is system development plan. The third one is information technology installation schedule. The fourth one is recruitment and training information technology personnel. Recruitment and training of IT personnel. Fifth one is training of users. And finally, the sixth one is investment plan. Now look at this. We are discussing about the information technology implementation plan, because we know that information technology implementation is a complex task. When I talk about the complex task, it comprises of the following features. The first one is site preparation, the second one is system development plan, and third one is IT installation schedule, and fourth one recruitment and training of IT personnel, the fifth one the training of users, and sixth one is the investment plan. Let us go in depth with respect to each of these features. When we talk about the site preparation, now we'll discuss about the first point. So when we talk about the site preparation, it is a major activity wherein the site for the physical installation of the hardware is prepared. When we talk about the site preparation, we know that site is an area, okay, where we set up a organization or we set up an hardware, machineries or other component. So we need to prepare those area. So physical preparation of the region or a area where the hardware or a machinery components would be installed is said to be the site preparation. When we talk about the hardware preparation or the machinery, what are the things that come under this category might be considered like the computer systems, the different machineries, the tools, the electrical and the communication cabling, even those wires that run on the walls and also under the flooring are everything considered with respect to the site preparation. So there might be other devices also. So these are the major properties, and moreover the space allocation. When we talk about the space allocation, where this machinery needs to be installed or where this machinery needs to be placed or fitted, all these things would be discussed. When we talk about the space installation, so it is for each of these items is based on the present need, and we also allocate for the future means. So we are concentrating here at present where do we want to install these machines. That is one part, fine. And second, we also need to take care whether that would be suitable even in the future also. Means these condition would be prevailed for the future use also. We need to keep both the things before preparation of a site. So we first is where to install. If we install now, it would be working fine. Whether if the quantity of processing is increased in future, if there is a more demand, more production has to be done, then is it okay. So all the future thoughts should also be considered with respect to the installation. And there is a need at the user end, means this site preparation is mainly concentrated or benefited or kept in mind with respect to the user needs. What is that user needs? Mainly for convenience, means the user who uses those equipments or the physical installed devices or the machineries, he should feel the convenient of using it, and ease of operation means he should feel more comfortable in using these. Means a guidelines would be provided by the hardware vendors, means those machinery providers would provide some guidelines. Based on particular guidelines itself, we need to prepare the site in order to install those equipment so that the user of those devices would feel comfortable. Let us consider the simple things with respect to the computers itself. Means a computer should be placed in such a way that it is properly available. When you say available, the seating should be right, a proper infrastructure to be given, the light and other ventilation should be there, and air conditioning needs to be there. Means infrastructure should be properly maintained. The cables running should be made not visible, it should be underlined somewhere else, so that all the wires and other things should not be made too visible as a looking into a mess. So all these should be considered. In the similar way, there are different machineries that needs to be installed. At the end, the main intention is the end users should feel more comfortable. In most of the IT installation, there needs to be a very good infrastructure facilities such as conference room. When you talk about IT, it is not that just keeping 2 or 3 systems and said it is finished. No, there should be a conference room and also training cum demonstration room, because many of the things needs to be shown to others. Many of the concept or the process needs to be demonstrated. So there need to be a particular room. We can't take the persons directly into the machine, run and show it. There should be a demonstration room and with all the modern aids of training. So when we talk about this, it is a pre-installation. That is, pre-installation plan needs to be there. If this is the concept, where to install, whether if we install here, will it be okay for the future also? Yes, all this concept needs to be prepared, and then the site needs to be prepared. And moreover, this property or this feature takes 10 to 12% of the investment. Still remember, we have not just installed at all, we are just preparing a plan. It is pre-preparing plan of the installation. This process itself takes around 10 to 12% of the investment. This was about the site preparation. Next, we'll look into the system development plan. Now, after the site preparation plan, we have a very good concept or an idea where to install. Here we have not installed it, but we have just processed a plan where it can be installed. The system development plan is a phase where exactly we install. So, preparing while assessing the hardware and the software needs to be done, means what are the hardware components that we are exactly needed, and also what kind of softwares needs to be pre-prepared now itself, because we are about to install it. Such plan gives an indication of the various locations of hardware and software in terms of quality and time when needed. Means we need to look as per the two parameters. First one is we need to have a quality output, and we also need the equipments that needs to be supporting us timely. When you call it timely, whatever is we needed at present and also for the future. So, we need to have a pre-prepared action to be installed, means we need to have a quite good amount of location facility in order to install this. One can make a site preparation plan for an immediate need and also for the later date, means this can also be done for immediate things. So, if you want to immediately install the devices, it can be made, and also for the future implementation, consider I would be installing the devices after a week, after a month, even though no problem, the site preparation plan can be done. Only after the site preparation plan, a thorough assessment, only then the second step of system development plan can be executed. It helps in the planning activities. So, this system development mainly helps in the planning activities. What are those? Such as recruitment, training, procurement plan for hardware and softwares, because we have decided what needs to be installed where. So, when we have a location, now we are about to install it. So, when we want to install, we need to procurement of the process, means we need to procure those machineries, devices, and also we need to have the human resources or the operators in order to use those machineries or the system. So, procurement activities starts in this phase, or this is the feature that helps the activities like recruitment, training, and procurement of a plant or a plan of an hardware and also various. In a broad sense, it is a preparation or pre-preparing the operation and implementation plan of an IT organization. In a broad sense, we can say that it is mainly now starting with respect to the operation and implementation. This is about the system development plan. So, we have gone across the second features. Let us look into the third feature, that is information technology installation guide. Now, it gives a time-wise details, item-wise details. When we say item-wise details, one by one. Okay. When we tell about installation, not everything will be installed simultaneously. One by one we need to install. So, item wise we need to install. So, it might be in hardware based on the arrival and its installation, testing and acceptance. So, what is this? So, when an item starts arriving, we need to take it, not every item will be collected at a shot and installed simultaneously. We need to go item wise details. So, here we have a preparation, we have mainly decided to start implementing it. So, we do up a preparation here and completely, and here whatever is there, we are about to install. Here procurement activity starts, means here we are purchasing the items. Now, here in this case, this feature describes we are installing those devices. So, every devices will not come simultaneously. As and when the devices come up or the hardware that arrives, we need to do three main tasks. What are the three main tasks? Before putting it to use, first one, we need to install the devices immediately. It is not that we procure the device, keep it for a long time and we install some other days or a later time. No, we don't do that. It is a worst scenario. Whenever the devices arrive, we need to take up immediately the installation process. That is why it is the third feature. So when we take up the device, we need to install it. After installing, we need to run the device and test for all the feasibilities. So we need to test for all condition, all kind of feasibility condition. So when it works, it is the finally we will say that it is acceptance, means we are accepting that device. If it is not feasible, or if it is not feasible for all kind of testing, or it does not permit us to do up all kind of requirements, then we would be immediately rejecting that system or a machinery or a hardware component. So first thing, we take up as and when the devices come, we install it, we test it and provide the acceptance. It also needs to be linked with the IT development plan to synchronize the installation. So when we come up with a new devices, new concept with respect to IT, we need to link it with the IT development, because each of the things or a component whatever we procure is for the development activities. So we need to link it. So in order to link it, we will synchronize the installation with the user of the hardware and software. Means all the devices that are procured are linked with the users with respect to one another in order to exchange the information. So all the hardware and the software are provided in such a way that they are installed in order to sync with one another, so that user would make the best development out of those things. And next is we need to schedule also the considering the issues like data conversion. Means when we talk about the installation, it is not only we are doing just a new devices and installing. Sometimes we need to schedule something. What are those things? We need to consider the issues like data conversion. We need to convert the data which is available into our requirement form. Switching from or switching over from a old to a new system is also said to be the installation process. Means when we are procuring a new kind of things, all the conventional data or the previous data is in the old system or the old previously used systems. So we need to convert those data or push those data into our new system. This is also a part of information schedule. So we need to schedule those activities. Means we need to take those data from the previous things into our new system, and sometimes there would be a possibility or need of data conversion from one format to another, and also sometimes rewriting of program from one environment to another might also be needed, because we might be entirely shifting into a new environment. So new program, new kinds of softwares or new kind of application might be needed. So it might be rewritten or it might be redone, so etc. This different kinds of activities would be involved. All these things need to be scheduled, and it may also be switching the information's technology to another itself. Means switching from one technology to other itself might be one more property of installation schedule. Means we might be using one kind of technology, we might be totally moving into one more or migrating everything into a new technology. So these are the things that come under the third feature, that is the IT information technology installation schedule. This is about the third feature of the implementation plan. Let us look into the fourth feature, that is the recruitment and training of IT professionals. Now here the site preparation is planned, the system development plan where we fix up what are the things that needs to be procured. So procurement is done here in this case after everything is planned, and now here every machinery and everything is installed, tested and accepted, and it is put to use. Now when we put to use, we need someone to make use of these machines. So we need to go with the recruitment and training. Why is that recruitment? So you might ask, sir, there were already a person in the organization, why do we want to recruitment? So there might be a situation of recruitment. It is not always, it is usually done when appropriate skilled persons are not available, or when we procure the new technology technology or a new devices, there might be an insufficient skilled person in order to make use of those technology or machineries. In those cases, we go with the process of recruitment of a new personnel into the organization in order to make use of those machineries. And the implementation of information technology needs specific skills in the manpower responsible for effective implementation. Means not every person is able to go with the new technology. Not every person is so skilled in with respect to the usage of a new machineries or a new system. So we need to have a skilled manpower in order to use it. When you talk about the skill may fall in the areas like, so you may say, so what kind of skills might be needed? Yes, the skills may fall in the areas like the different languages, the different tools of development, and also acquiring precise work process. Some of the people might be not be so skilled with respect to the following areas, or they might be not knowing a particular language that might be used in future, or that might be needed at that instance of time, or the people might not be so familiar with the various tools of development, and some people might be not be in a stage of acquiring the precise work process. In those cases, we need to go with the process of recruiting a new personnel. When we talk about the technology, because you know that day to day technology is changing at a very fast pace. Okay, when we keep working, we will be very much involved in an ongoing process. So the technology is going on other side, we might not get ourselves updated with those things. So what happens in those cases? We are outdated with the technology, whereas the technology itself is growing and new emerging technologies are available. So we get outdated. In those cases, it is very much necessary to upgrade our skills for the existing manpower. So here, when we talk about the recruitment, we need to upgrade. When the skilled manpower is available, there is no need of recruitment in the organization. So if the existing persons or existing manpower that's there in the organization are not so skilled, are not upgraded with the latest technology, so in those cases, we need to have this process, that is the recruitment and training. So you might be knowing that what is this training? Yes, there might be a skilled person who might be not very familiar with some of the tools. In those cases, there is no need of recruiting one more person. The same person, a skilled person, might be given a chance of training with respect to the new tools, so that he would be upgrading his knowledge to the latest tools and technology. This is about the fourth process of requirement and training of IT personnel. This is the fourth feature. Let us look into the next feature, that is a training of users. So this is very interesting. IT, that is information technology, requires its users to be well trained for its effective use. The statement itself says, if you want to make a best effective usage, you need to be trained. Simple thing. So the otherwise versa, it says a trained users will make the things with respect to effective usage. That's it. So this statement clarifies that a training is needed to everyone. So when we talk about the training may range from just an awareness of learning of a specific tool also. When I talk of training, it doesn't mean that a new concept should be made to learn by that person. No, it's not just like that. It's not like the completely it is allowing a person to learn new things. No, sometimes it just awareness is also sufficient about the latest technology, trends and processes. That would also be considered as training. So users should be trained to use various information technology in order to facilitate those activities in the organization. Means every user should be aware of using the latest technology that is been available. So when we make our usage of a latest technology, obviously it's a smart work. So the manpower redundancy will be reduced. the work process will be reduced, unnecessary strain will be reduced, and moreover the efficiency would be increased. So that's why every time every organization says make use of the technology. Moreover, the user should be trained. Why should be users trained? The user should be trained because in order to blend the information support to their day-to-day activities. This is very important because they want the information, the latest trends and technology information that is available needs to be blended with their daily activities. In order to blend those things, they need to be mandatorily trained. So this is the main intention. Many times there are a lot of software packages available which needs to be learned for its appropriate use to become a IT literate. When you talk about the software packages, a particular software packages suppose a particular process of activities. In order to become experts, so we call it as IT literates. Okay, so to become those IT literate, one has to be aware of those software packages, and you should be aware of using that software wherever is needed in order to make his daily activities appropriate and complete. With this, user becomes a knowledge worker. So until this, when the information is not there, okay, and the blending of our information with the daily process is not done, is not a knowledgeful worker. When the training is given, he is able to blend the information in day-to-day activities so that the user now, with respect to aware of IT and all these things, is said to be a knowledge worker. Then in an organization, who all are the person who needs training? This question arises. It is not that a particular group or a particular person needs the training. It's everyone in the organization would require the training. It is not that they don't know everything. No, it should not be mistaken like this. So when we take about the training, it might be an awareness, it might be an upgradation of skill, or sometimes it might be a new extra add-ons to them or to their daily process in order to make their daily routine easier work process. So who are all of the persons who would be facilitated with the training process with respect to users in organization are? It might be the workers, it might be officers, even it might be executives or managers and so on. So everyone in the organization would require training to use all the information technological resources with respect to IT. This is about the fifth feature of training and the users. Next, we'll look into the sixth one. See, now after all these 5 phases, we have come into the interesting concept called investment plan. Okay, so it is not that investment is an easier task. When we know everything, every aspects of a process of an organization, only then the investment plan comes into the picture. That's why it has gone to the 6th phase. So 6th feature. So when all the facets of information technology implementation is ready, it is possible to work out the monetary implementation. When I talk about monetary implementation, it is such as implementation means when complete investment will be done only when all the implementation plan is ready, completely thoroughly. When you have all the concepts, then only then we look into the concept of investment on that. Means until that nothing is discussed about the investment. When everything is done, then we call about the aspects of investing. See, here we are looking into the procurement of new devices. We don't call it as investment here because it is just the process to start. When all this thing is done, we say complete investment is done now because it needs to be summarizing. When you talk about summarizing, it is the estimates on the time scale would generate an investment plan. Means all the activities from here till here, over a time scale it happens. It would not happen in a single day or a single month. It depends over a period of time. So on the time scale, whatever we do up, then we call it as everything as an investment. Here, when you talk about recruitment of person is also an investment. With training to an users, it is also considered as an investment. One can fit the investment in the budget provisions by suitable modification of the implementation plan, because so those investment concept, the financial things can also be introduced in the concept of budget. Means this training, recruitment and also upgradation, installation, everything can be filled up in the budget plan itself. Then we can say this is the budget of implementation plan of an information technology. The investment in the IT is strategic. This is the key important. When you say about strategic, it is mainly to save the investment. So when we play about the strategic plan, we have discussed a lot of concept about the strategies. What is mean by strategy? What are the different types of strategy? The ultimate intention of strategic plan is to make a complete recovery or complete success with respect to the goal. So that plays the main role here. That is, the investment plan is not a simple task or a process, it is a strategy here. What is that strategy? We are investing all these things in order to reap the harvest with the profit, which means whatever we have invested, we need to get the double or a much more with respect to a time scale over a period of time. That is called the returns. So the overall intention of IT plan or implementation is to make profit. This is to be considered. So when we talk about all these things investment plan, it is not so easy. A complete thorough process has to be assessed like this. The implementation plan and also the investment needed sometimes need to be documented, and these things need to be presented to the top management. This presentation might go on hours together, because you need to convince the top management in order to make such a investment. So these are the few features with respect to the IT implementation plan. This is a very important question with respect to the examination. What is it says? So in the examination, the question many times it's been asked like this: explain the IT implementation plan in detail. So when we talk about IT implementation plan in the previous thing, you need to explain those along with the features. What are those features? The first one goes like this: prepare the site. Second one, system development plan has to be done. The third one, IT installation schedule. When you say about IT installation schedule, you should keep a measure. It is not that only with respect to new devices. Sometimes migration from old to new is also considered as investment or installation with respect to scheduling. The fourth one, recruitment and training plan needs to be considered. And the fifth one, training of the user. And finally, the investment needs to be considered. So these are the 6 main features with respect to IT investment plan. Let us move into the next concept. The next concept is the contents of a IT implementation plan. Now here we see what would be the contents. So we have seen the various features that are required for the implementation plan. Now we'll see what are the different kinds of contents that the IT implementation plan is comprised of. First one is executive summary. When we say about an executive summary, whatever we have discussed in a completely with respect to the 6 features of implementation, completely it is said to be an executive summary. Means all the aspects needs to be covered with respect to preparation till the investment, and also what is the amount of investment that is also required in order to run the things is said to be a documentation called an executive summary, a complete information. Second one, goals. Whenever we talk about MT implementation plan, though the summary is there, you should have a goal with respect to summary. What is that goal? When you talk about goal, it should be general and also specific. When we say about general, it is not just every organization or every industry is main intention is to make profit. That is fine. And also it should specify in which area or what kind of profit that would be made, and also how the goals would be achieved. In a broad sense, it cannot be said. It should be broad as well as in specific. It should mention what are the different types of goal that would be achieved. And also the third one is assumption. When we talk about assumption, it is the assuming concepts. What are the things that has been considered as assumption? Means perceived as present or will happen or is about to happen. All these things. Sometimes, but there might be no such kind of things. But later we assume it and go on, because most of the time we assume there might be a demand of that product. So those kind of assumption should always be mentioned now, because in the starting itself, when we mention, it is very clear what are the assumptions and what are the reality, because we are not lying just on the assumption. We are working on the practicality of those assumptions. So assumption should also be mentioned. Fourth one is the scenario. When we talk about the scenario, the information or the information processing environment, in what are the different scenarios where the information implementation plan is considered, is discussed in this phase. In which kind of scenarios or the stages or the ways or in particular situations this kind of implementation plan would be helpful, should be discussed. Then the fifth one is the application areas. When we talk about the application areas, it might be a status, it might be a cost, schedule and priorities, where and all this would be applicable. This implementation plan would be applicable means when we talk about applicable, it might be with respect to the status of an organization. It might be applicable towards the cost. This might be also applicable with respect to schedule and also with some priorities. This also needs to be a part and parcel of an IT implementation plan. Sixth one is the operations. What are the various operations that could be performed in the particular plan is also a content of the IT implementation plan. And next one is the maintenance and enhancements. So when we talk about the maintenance, investment of one time is very easy, but maintaining it for a long period of time should also be cost effective. This should be kept in mind. Means the maintenance factor should be easy. Means it is not that every time the maintenance cost is more. If your maintenance cost is more and very difficult, then the process of making the investment is in hurdle, and moreover the ratio with respect to the maintenance, the investment, the profit would be going down. That's why the concept of maintenance should also be discussed now itself, and also what might be the enhancements, that is the future add-ons or future upgradation that might be needed over a period of time should also be mentioned in the contents of an IT investment or implementation plan itself. The eighth one is organization structure. Why is this organization structure very important? In any of the organization, a proper hierarchy structure of the flow of information and the flow of the process should be defined earlier or a prior itself. What happens if we don't do that? If we don't do that, everyone seems to be a boss. Everyone is least bothered with one another. Everyone wants to work in his own way. Ultimately, the goal or the process is not complete. So in order to make a uniformity and the cooperation, the communication with one another, in order to achieve the goal, a proper organization structure needs to be framed. So everyone knows where he lies and what is he supposed to do. So the organization structure is very important, and it also defines the pattern of computing in the organization. The ninth one is effect of plan. Effect of plan or organization. Now you know all these things. So if we implement this, what would be the consequences on the line? It might be a betterment, achieving the goal, and also when we talk about the effects, it mainly also concentrates on the financial impact also. Effect always, in other way, all the aspects should come up, like the goals, achieving targets, processes. On the other way completely, it is we are talking about the financial impact that would make over a period of time. This is called the effect of a plan on the organization. Finally, the concept is the implementation. Finally, we look into the concept called the implementation. When you talk about the implementation, it is not just start. When you talk about the implementation starting, there might be a lot of risks involved. There might be many obstacles coming up. So you need to discuss or address those risks or obstacles here itself in the contents of the IP implementation plan. So these are said to be the 10 main contents that needs to be addressed or present with respect to the IT implementation plan itself. That is, the first one is the executive summary. It needs to address the goals now itself at the beginning. And the third one is the various assumptions that are considered should be mentioned here. The fourth one, where does this adopt, or what kind of scenarios are the best suited for this kind of applications, and the various application areas where it is consequences are affecting, like the status, cost, schedule, and the priorities are discussed, and various operations that can be performed, the maintenance and the enhancement that needs to be taken care. The eighth one, that is the organization structure that needs to be framed at the beginning itself, and also the effect of plan on the organization, also with the financial impact. And finally, the implementation, the various risks and obstacles that would be faced before the implementation are discussed. These were the contents of an IT implementation plan. The next concept or the topic is the configuration of IT platform design. Configuration of IT platform design. What is this? Means here totally it is considered with respect to the development of an application with respect to IT platform. So what are the design aspects that needs to be considered. First one is data type. So when we talk about the data type, it might be a words, numeric, image, and also we need to consider the various hardwares and software that should be capable of handling these kinds of data types. So when we are designing an application, these needs to be considered in the designing phase itself. What kind of data we are making use of? It might be a word, numeric, images, or combination of those things. So we need to support those data types. So we are supposed to use the adequate or synchronizable hardware and software configuration with respect to this data type. Second one is the data volume. When we talk about the data volume, it is the disk options. When we talk about the amount of data that would be used or that would be available in this application, based on the volume of the data, we might go with different servers like client server concept, or different disks would be used like a hard disk or additional storage that needs to be used here itself before the starting of application. That needs to be mentioned in the design itself. Means we need to be prepared to the amount of that data that would be used during the process of running. So that has to be discussed now itself. The third one is the storage capacity. Here we use the volume, what kind of things, whereas here we look into the storage capacity, where to store, how to store. Like the online storage capacity would be decided based on the processing needs. If a processing is very less, we can directly store somewhere in the intermediate place, or if there is more and it might be needed for a long period of time, we can push into the other external storage devices. Also, we can push our data into clouds, which makes it accessible everywhere. So this is about the storage capacity. Fourth one is the I/O operations. When we talk about an I/O operations, it is the various controllers and the speed of I/O processing. Means we might be using different I/O devices. So there might be a very good controllers, and also the processing speed needs to be very much important or countable in order with respect to the I/O activities, that is the input, processing, and getting the output. So we need to choose a proper I/O operations and also the I/O devices. The fifth one is data sharing. When we talk about the data sharing, data is shared across the databases. The shared or storage capacity will be decided because we are not using a centralized data. Means we are using the data everywhere. So we need to have the shared data concept. It is not that data is dumped into a particular system, because we are having a different network capabilities. Those applications might be used or it might be accessed by n different places. So in order to support, the data should be shareable or accessible from various locations. We need to have such kind of databases that are available so that data could be shared to all the paired systems to the main system. And sixth one is the process speed. When we talk about the processing speed, we need to consider the computational activities. Means all the activities of processing should be done at a very fast pace. In order to do that, we need to consider the many of the things like CPU, memory, and the processing architecture, because all the activities need to be done very fastly. And finally, we need to concentrate on RDBMS concept. When you talk about RDBMS, that is a choosing of database on handling of data. So there are different kinds of RDBMS. So choose the appropriate one that is suitable for your application, the technology you are making use of, so that your design or your application would be much more effective and used by the users in an efficient way. So these are the following features that needs to be considered while configuring the IT platforms. What are those? The data type, the second one is the data volume, and the third one data storage capacity, that the fourth one is the IO operations, fifth one is the data sharing, sixth one is the processing speed, and finally the RDBMS, that is the concept. And continuing with this, the eighth one is said to be the query processing. When we talk about the query processing, because we need to have a sufficient or adequate SQL or a particular standard in order to query, because here we have a database, relational database, we need to extract the information from the database. So we need to have an adequate query system to retrieve the data. And the ninth one is said to be the communication protocol. When we talk about the communication protocol, as I said, these computers or the systems would be at different places, so at a different location. So people would be using this application from various places to access the data. So in order to have the proper communication, we need to use a proper protocol. Obviously, it is nothing but the TCP and the IP. And the 10th one is interface and gateway. When we talk about an interface and gateway, these will decide on the basis of data transfer and the needs between the location and the hardware and the software platforms. So how do they access between one another? The permission, the way of approach and the permission is decided. Not that everyone can access or only authorized person can access in order to provide the security. And the 11th one itself is the security and the integrity. When we talk about the security and integrity, it will be decided by the hardware and the software, and also with the OS, because lot of hardwares are there which are very much secure. These hardwares are protected with the software, and overall protection will be considered by using secured operating system. So security and integrity is also considered. And finally, it is the languages, 12th one. When we talk about the languages, and it would be supported with the packages also, additional thing. Sometimes it is needed for additional tasks. The different languages and different packages might be needed in order to continue our applications. So these are said to be the different configurations that needs to be considered with the development or the design of an IT platform. So summarizing this session, we have discussed about the information technology implementation plan. We have discussed about the various features of an IT implementation plan. We have considered the various contents of an IT implementation plan, and also we have thorough discussion done with respect to the configuring the design with respect to IT platform. These are the contents I had wished to discuss in this session. Thank you very much.